Okay, hey everybody. I think we're going to get started. Thanks for coming, innovators. We're here for Google EI live extension development. We have
Okay, hey everybody. I think we're going to
And we're here with an awesome mix of innovators and Googlers to chat all about Google Chrome extensions. We had a Twitter chat last year around extensions, and there was a lot of interest, and a lot of you are both using really awesome classroom extensions and making them. So the innovators on our panel thought it would be an awesome topic to share what they're up to in development, and also hear a little bit from the Google Chrome team about what's coming up and any tips or strategies for making the leap into development. So thanks, everyone. I'll have the innovators in the chat give a quick hi. Let us know your cohort, if your Twitter handle, if you want to connect, if you haven't yet, what you're up to now, and your favorite Chrome extension, if you can choose. And I'll shoehorn one more question in. If you are developing now, or if you're interested in developing, our chat today will air towards the sides of making that leap to development. But let us know where you're at on that spectrum right now. So I'll leave that in the YouTube live chat. And while you're saying hello, we'll go ahead and introduce our Googlers and innovators joining us today. And we'll go along the line. So, hey, Wanda, did you want to?
Hi, I'm Wanda Terrell. I'm a district technology coordinator in the Lakeland school system outside of Memphis. And I am GTA Austin 2014.
Awesome. Thanks, Wanda, for joining us. Let's go to Chris Kraft. Hi, Chris. How are you? Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Hey, everybody. I'm Chris Kraft. I live, work, and play here in Columbia, South Carolina. Go Gamecocks. I am fortunate to serve as the Director of Strategic Partnerships for EdTech team. I am an old school innovator. I've been around since GTA DC in 2009. Have been fortunate to be working with Chrome extensions, both from a personal consumption standpoint as well as a development standpoint. Really excited to be here tonight.
Thanks, Chris. All right, moving along, we got Jordan. Jordan, how are you? Where are you? What's your story? And you might be muted.
Perfect. Hey, good morning, everyone. It's morning my time. I'm in Beijing. I was a member of Colorado 16, hashtag Col16. And I just recently finished development. Well, not finished, it's but we've got a working prototype version of a aggregator tool with another innovator from oh shoot, where is she from? Which group? But her name is Gretchen Orwig, and it's a comment aggregator for feedback in Google Classrooms. And so we'll have that extension coming out pretty soon.
I love it, Jordan. And thanks for all of our innovators who mentor and connect on projects. Hopefully today, if you're currently an active cohort and working on your project, or maybe you're working on a new project, hopefully today can also be a good connection for you. Perhaps you're looking for some technical support or technical steps to help your idea come to reality, which we'll have our innovators talk to us about in a moment. But it looks like in our chat, we've got folks from Call 16, Toronto. Thanks, Rebecca. Gretchen is from Sydney, 17. Matthew from Jatachi, 13. Mountain View representing. Awesome, guys. Thanks for coming from all over the world today. And let's go ahead and hop over to James. James, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, everybody. My name's James Wagner. I live up here in the Seattle area. I'm the product manager for Chrome extensions and the Chrome Web Store. Super excited to be here today and talk to you all more about the extensions that you all are working on, and yeah, just listen in. Thanks.
Thanks, James. And then James also has a colleague, Devlin, as well. But I think James will be representing the both of them today. So thanks, James. Does he work?
Devlin actually just joined. How's it going, Devlin?
Hey, I'm perfectly happy to let James do the talking. He's far more eloquent than I am. I'm Devlin. I'm technical lead and manager for the Chrome extensions team, and I'm based out of the San Francisco Bay Area. Very appreciative for the invite and looking forward to hearing what everyone has to say.
Thanks, Devlin. So coffee, San Francisco versus Seattle is right here on the call. So that we'll throw that out to the chat. Which city's got the better coffee? So cool. Thank you, guys. Thanks to our panelists, and thanks for introducing yourselves. And thanks everyone in the chat. Looks like some of our favorite extensions coming from the chat include Colorzilla. Thanks, Heather, for sharing. So don't forget to throw in your favorite extension, and or if you're dabbling in development or have already been developing some extensions yourself, we'd love to hear your experience level in the chat. Cool. With that, guys, we'll take the half hour today. We just introduced our panel. We're going to look at some examples of our 3 extensions that we'll highlight today and how perhaps innovators got started on those. Jordan already kicked us off a little bit on some new stuff coming down the pike. And then we also want to make sure we have time for Q&A for you, both on the extension store and developing and how to partner up. So please feel free to throw those in chat now, and we'll try to address those with our team by the end. So thanks, everyone. Cool. Thanks, Nicholas. Google Read Write, favorite extension. Rebecca's going to take her add-on into extension territory. Perfect. Let us know if you have any specific questions around that. With that, I'll throw this one off to James and Devlin first, but working on Chrome extensions, is there anything innovators or folks who are heavy users of extensions or thinking of developing, anything that's coming new that might be of interest to the team today?
Yeah, sure. We wanted to cover were one, changes to the platform that we're working on, and then secondly, the new Chrome Web Store developer dashboard that is currently now in beta. So I'll start with the second one, actually. We're working on a completely brand new version of the developer dashboard, which is the interface where developers and there are a few things about the new UI that we're really excited about. First off, we're sort of redesigning the interface from the ground up and really rethinking the interaction design, and it's a complete visual refresh, so it's modern. Secondly, we're working on improving the stats and reporting UI in order to sort of give developers more insight into how users are kind of engaging and interacting with their extensions. So both expanding the metrics and stats that are available to developers, as well as including new types of breakouts. So the ability to, for example, break out a given stat across like the region and language, the operating system that users are running, the version of the extension, etc. And then also the third thing that we're most excited about with the new dashboard is the notification system that we are incorporating. So the idea here is that we want to provide a surface for sort of where developers for example, when users are leaving reviews for their extensions in the web store, be the ability to be notified either in the developer dashboard UI itself or over email. So this is now in beta. It's available to try out. So if you're familiar with the existing developer dashboard, would definitely love for you to head to the dashboard. There's a promo at the top of the page for the new dashboard that you can click on and try it out. And yeah, really looking for any and all feedback on the new product. So that's the first part of it. Devlin, do you want to talk about upcoming platform changes and the work that's going on?
Sure. So on the platform side of things, we're looking at a couple of different areas. One of them, I'm sure that as many of the developers in the audience know, is that the web has moved forward very rapidly in the last few years, and the number of things that you can do on the open web has expanded incredibly vastly. Where before these things would be the realm of only native applications or browser plugins, now you can do a lot of these things with just a normal website. So one of the main things that we're looking at is how can we continue to leverage the power of the open web and extensions and make sure that extensions provide additional benefit to that without kind of butting heads or conflicting there? And how do we make sure that extensions are continuing to be a powerful tool for the entire ecosystem that our users love? We've seen a lot of great adoption of extensions over the years, and so there's a few different areas that we're looking on improving and polishing even more. So we're looking at what different functionality can we bring to the platform, as well as what can we do to give users more choice when it comes to the types of extensions that they have installed and what type of access they want to give these extensions so the user can really be in charge of their browsing experience. Because extensions are a great tool that really allows everyone to curate their own browsing experience, but we need to make sure that the user is always the one that's in charge of being able to do that in the way that they want to. So we're looking at what can we do to do that. I'm sorry, Chris, I saw your question come up and it disappeared before I had a chance to finish reading it.
Thank you. I might note that there are two questions, so I'll refer to Jordan's question first. Jordan asked, is it going to be possible in the new dashboard for us to delete, and I would echo his question, is it going to be possible to delete items from the web store dashboard? Personally, I published a script at one point as I was learning that process that has no users and never will, because it got published as an extension rather than a script, but I can't get rid of it. So I'm fearful that it's eventually going to cause me to have, that's going to be one of the ones that it caused me to hit my max. Are we going to be able to delete those at any point?
Yes, this is definitely a request that we've heard from a lot of developers. We've actually added the ability to archive extensions from the UI. Delete, we're still working through actually the details around how we'll be able to handle delete versus archive, but it is something that we're currently working on and planned.
Thanks. And my question was, are there any third-party extensions developed by non-Googlers that have been absorbed into core functionality of any Google product? Do you have a story there?
I don't think that there are any that were directly absorbed into them, but they've definitely influenced some of the paths that we've taken in Chrome. Extensions were always kind of designed to fill use cases where the browser by itself wouldn't work, but extensions satisfied that niche. And there have been times that we've seen that the niche is no longer as niche as it used to be. So good examples of that are things like password management extensions, where there's LastPass and OnePass that provide these solutions for users, and they've been tremendously successful and popular. And Chrome realized that that was something that people wanted to be as part of the browser. And so Chrome did end up building a password manager that is component to the browser. And then we offer that in addition to users who might want something other than that in case they don't want Chrome doing that management, and they can still use those extensions. So that's kind of one example where we've influenced the direction we've gone because of the extensions, but we don't typically combine them directly for a couple of different reasons around the technical difficulty, as well as the legality, because Chromium is open source and not all extensions are, as well as the security guarantees that we want to make sure all users have.
Thanks for sharing.
Awesome. Thanks, Devlin. Thanks, James, for sharing a little bit about what's coming new for Chrome, and really great to hear just the landscape and how user-focused it is. And hopefully we hear some stories today from our innovators on how their users and teachers they've worked with and are working with, and even their own use cases are driving the need of what's being built. So let's keep cruising and hear about a few of these. Jordan, did you want to tell us a little bit about Teachers Can Code and maybe how that started and how you got started in making that?
Yeah, well, my innovator project was looking for a way to connect teachers who wanted to develop stuff with people who could code those things and to kind of facilitate that, that collaboration. Most recently, I started putting, I put Teachers Can Code on Reddit to try to merge my procrastination and my work together. If I'm going to spend so much time on Reddit anyways, I might as well have my own subreddit. And it's also been kind of a part of this. I saw somebody in the chat mention Gretchen was in Sydney 17. So she was in Sydney, and we got matched up for her year-long project, which was to build this kind of this comment aggregator that we're calling Comment Harvester. And her idea was that she leaves comments on all of these Google documents throughout a classroom as the year goes by. And then a tool that would allow her to pull all of those comments into one place so that she could reflect on them, as the year goes by, as she has to give feedback to her students. And so we just have so we worked together to build that. It's going to be an add-on for Google Sheets. So we've got a working copy of that, and that'll be released to the Innovator community before we push it to the whole web store. I haven't. It's good to hear that the web store is getting an update too. By the way, I'm pretty stoked about that. That's really cool. Yeah, so that's kind of that's my my story about Teachers Can Code.
Awesome, Jordan. How did you get started in developing? What was your first example of that before your Innovator project, or what inspired that?
Well, learning JavaScript was something that I did because I wanted to make things for my grade 5 classroom when I was teaching in Turkey. I started reading about web development. I had no idea how to program. The kids had all these little drag and drop tools and all these little, things for their iPads. And I was like, those things are super cool. I want to learn how to code too. As an English teacher, I wasn't doing anything with coding with the students, unfortunately, but I would see the things that they would bring from their tech classes. And so I started playing around with one of those little drag and drop tools. And then I was like, I actually want to build tools that I can use in classroom. So I started reading about web development, and web development is really the quickest way to kind of turn an idea into reality, because it all happens right in the browser. With just a little bit of HTML and CSS and JavaScript, you can have something that looks pretty cool in just a few minutes. Then of course the more you learn, the deeper down the rabbit hole you go. The more trouble you get yourself into. So that's the spiral, and that was about 4 years ago. And so now I think I'm sometimes I think I'm a pretty good JavaScript developer, and then other times I'm garbage, and I can't do anything right. So.
Well, we're glad you started. I threw your website and your Reddit on Teachers Can Code on the chat, so hopefully you guys can connect with Jordan. And thanks for sharing so much your story.
And I made a note. You asked about extensions earlier. I wanted to mention the extension I use the most is called Google Apps Script GitHub Assistant, and it's an extension that gives you this ability to push and pull from GitHub. I won't go into detail as to what that is, but if you use GitHub at all, it's a really helpful extension for putting your code out there to share with others. And I was actually thinking when James was talking about updating the web store, wondering if Google has any plans of connecting with any of those third-party code repositories like GitHub or anything like that. So I was curious about that.
Yeah, thanks, Jordan. Devlin or James, any thoughts around GitHub integration?
James unfortunately mentioned that he's having network issues, which I promise is not just to dodge your question. So we'll see if he can pop back in a moment. He would know better than I, but I can say that we know it's definitely been a feature request for a while to have that kind of better integration with some of these tools, especially as GitHub becomes more and more popular and kind of the de facto place to be. I know that there are a couple of kind of hand-rolled solutions that are out there that work fairly well for some things. I don't know if it's currently planned to have a first-party solution to that type of thing, but it's certainly something that we know is out there as a common feature request. So it's on our very long list of things that we would like to do given infinite time and resources.
Thanks, Devlin, and thanks, James, in the chat. GitHub's worth learning, makes keeping track of changes easier. Rebecca's using it for her project as well. Awesome. So reach out to these folks if you haven't used GitHub yet and are interested in getting started. So thanks all. Let's keep cruising in here. Another example, Wanda, do you want to share with everyone about anyone can code? So we have teachers can code, anyone can code. Tell us a little bit about this.
Sure. I do a number of presentations for EdTech team, and I was always looking for something that was more on the geeky side to kind of fill that niche. And I came across a tutorial online in the Google resources that walked through how to make an extension. So I played around with it. I was like, I can do this, and I can teach other people to do this. And so that was right about the time HyperDocs was coming big. To start with, and so I took that opportunity to practice HyperDoc skills by building a HyperDoc about how to make a Chrome extension. And so I share a few different tools in it, and it's been pretty successful. In one, I have pretty good success rate of people at least leaving with something that works. Now, granted, these are not extensions that do a lot. The approach I take is solving a problem. And most of the time in schools, one of the big problems is communication. And if clicking on an extension can get you access to information that you need quickly, then that saves teachers a lot of time. So one of the templates that I give them is clicking on an extension and having an embedded Google slide deck show up there that may have their daily announcements, may have their bell work. Schools could use it to push out their daily announcements. And so I show them how to download my extensions that I have in the Chrome Web Store, and then how to edit those to allow them to embed their own code in it. And it never fails to just put a huge smile on my face to see that moment when somebody in that session goes, oh my gosh, it works. It makes it all worthwhile having that opportunity to see that, but it's a lot of fun.
Oh, it's awesome, Wanda. I dropped your link in the chat for folks. That's awesome. And how long have you been coding? When did you very first start?
I kind of started the same way Jordan did, doing some web design stuff, and then I ended up getting into some PHP and some MySQL stuff, doing some web apps, and just have kind of moved along through. Eventually ended up programming a web app for our school district to run summer school. So I got pretty involved on the programming side of it. But as the last 5 or 6 years, I've had the opportunity to start digging into the Google Apps Script side of it some more, and find plenty of opportunities in my school district to put those skills to work. So
I love it, Wanda. I'm going to go ahead and bring it up Chris's question, Chris Tenbarge, because you're talking about district level change, and sometimes developing can help solve big problems at scale. He'd love to hear how school admins can upload a settings file to customize an extension across their domain. Does anyone have thoughts around that?
I know we can push out extensions that aren't published to the Chrome Web Store. We've done that with a couple of things that we just wanted to keep internal. I'm not sure about pushing out specific settings, but that may be beyond my skill level. I'm not a real programmer coder, so.
Thanks, Wanda. Any other thoughts, Devlin or Chris Kraft or Jordan?
Do you mean an add-on or extension that everyone in your domain is automatically installed?
Yeah, upload a settings file to customize an extension across their domain. Maybe, Chris, you can expound on that a little bit more, maybe with your use case, and maybe we can tackle into it.
Oh, just the settings.
Yeah.
I think you can, so there's properties service built into Google Apps Script, but I don't think it can span across users. I think those settings that you can put inside of that property service are user specific. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. So one way we've tackled that is, as opposed to trying to push that out from kind of the top-down level, we've created features that are unlockable at the user level. So that way it takes into account the fact that so much of this is user account based and so much of it is user account specific. So if we ping back to a central spot that has whatever that setting file is, it can be unlocked using a special key, so that you kind of have to. That's how we've mitigated it, sort of the best of both worlds. But Jordan, I think you're spot on. And as are you, Wanda, that it's really specific to the individual extension. Much, I would also argue that it's difficult to have anything that you push out span not only across user accounts, but also across extensions, because they're all developed by so many different people with so much different code that it'd be difficult to standardize that. We could be, I personally could be way off the mark, Chris Tenbarge, as to what you were hunting for. So if you clarify, I'd love to get a chance, I think, as we all, to readdress that.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. And I think that's an important note, that if you have outstanding questions like this or projects, Jennifer is sharing that you're going to learn how to work your yearbook slides as well using Jordan's videos. It's all awesome. Hopefully we keep connecting with each other on these conversations. Let's chat a little bit before we do a final Q&A with James and Devlin, if you have any outstanding questions all. Chris, do you want to share us a little bit about from silly ideas to reality? I think everyone's got things they wish they could do. We'd love to hear a little bit about how you did that.
Sure. Let me share that with you in a story. So several years ago, this is probably 5, 6, maybe 7 years ago, I was presenting at an ISTE affiliate conference in Georgia called the Georgia EdTech Conference, or GAETC. And historically, one of my presentation tricks was to use a little Mac program called Quicksilver. And that Mac program it's an application launcher by nature, but it had this little feature built in that I absolutely loved. And it was the ability to make text large in the center of the screen. So historically, every single time I would present at this conference, and I did probably 6 or 7 presentations, people would come up to me and they'd go, "Oh my gosh, how do you do that?" And I'd tell them that it was Quicksilver. And if they were PC users, they would just kind of go off and wait for their computers to take 6 minutes to shut down, but we'll leave that aside. So as the rest of Mac users, I'd get emails and they'd say, I can't figure it out, or this is a little more complicated, or can you remind me? So I made some tutorials and so on. And then the next year, a teacher walked up to me and she said, "Hey, I really wish there was a way to do this in Chrome." I said, "Oh man," I said, "never thought about that. I've never developed in Chrome." I said, "Let me take a look." So much like all of us probably did, we went looking at some of the resources I did. And thankfully, there are a tremendous amount of resources that are out there. And I would lend my full support to Wanda Terrell's resources. A quick story about Wanda. I can remember right about now, a year ago, about 14 months ago, a teacher came out of a session where she had done that very session And she was just tearing down the hallway going, I made my own extension, I made my own extension. And that's because of Wanda. So if you take nothing else out of this, Wanda's resources are terrific for when you're getting started. So I took that idea from that teacher about how do I make text large in the center of the screen, and out of that was born Crafty Text. And some of you may have heard of Crafty Text. You can find it at crafty184.com. So a couple of years go by and more people started using Crafty Text. It got up, I think, to close to 100,000 users just of this silly little idea. And out of that were born Crafty's extensions. So I made, I don't know, probably 7 of them, I think. One of them didn't really work right. So really there's 6. And they're still out there. Another one was called Crafty Writes that changes the way Google image searches are done to return only non-copyrighted images. So those 2, Crafty Text and Crafty Writes, are the most popular. I made another one called Crafty Level, to where you could run a Flesch Kincaid grade level of any piece of web text. So just silly little ideas. And every single one of them had as their origin a teacher need, some pain point in the classroom that teachers would approach me and say, man, I really wish there were a way to. I love that sentence. I wish there was a way to. And I go, man, I don't know. Let's figure it out. Now, one thing I should warn you about, Wanda taught you how to look at the source code of extensions. Please don't look at mine. I am no professional developer. It's a bit like a house of cards. So there's always a chance where something's going to break. So just bear that in mind. Don't use my code as any shining example. But here's the fun thing. 18 months ago, we got this idea at EdTech Team. We were going to start building extensions. So I started working. We worked with a couple of other developers. And as of October, we've released 4 different extensions that are just lighting up the charts. And the most popular one by far is called, and that's what you're seeing in the animated GIF, it's called Checkmark. And Checkmark gives teachers the capacity to give students much faster feedback on documents. And as of a couple of weeks ago, it works on slides now also. So instead of highlighting some text, clicking the add comment button, typing in your comment, you can customize a list of comments to where you highlight, hit that little button that's right above your cursor, and that comment is added for you automatically. Plus it keeps track of how many comments are used. You're seeing that again in the animated GIF. And all of that just came out of a teacher saying, man, I really wish there were a way to. This teacher came to us and came to me at an event and said, man, listen, it's still so easy to grade on paper. I'm having my kids print. I'm using the red pen. And man, she was honest. She was just broken in that moment. And I said, you know what? I said, there's got to be a better way. Devlin mentioned that on occasion, features that are potentially influenced by extensions get absorbed. Last year at ISTE, and I have photographic proof of this, Devlin. I'm just messing with you, but this is fun. I have folks were using, in the Google booth, Googlers were using Crafty Text to show Google Classroom codes large in the center of the screen. And then just after summer, of course, that got baked in to Classroom. So I have no official word on this, but I take a little bit of credit. And actually, I give that credit right to the teacher that made that request initially. So that's what I would say to you. Hey, innovators, if you're interested in getting started in this, it's a road to hoe. Start with Wanda's resources because they're amazing. Look at Jordan's videos. I've learned so much from him over the time. And then reach out because we're a community. And listen, you can't do this alone. None of us can do this alone. So we're a part of a community. And if I can serve you in any way as you're getting ready to embark on that journey, and I'm sure that's true for everybody else on this call, we'd be delighted to do that. And if you want to build something together, hey, let's do that too.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Chris. That's super exciting. We dropped some links into some of your extensions like Checkmark into the chat. Final chance all for any Q&A you might have. And as we let any final questions come in, any final words of advice for getting started? I think connecting is a great one, Chris. I think we have Wanda's doc. What's the very first step for someone? I think Jennifer's looking at watching videos from Jordan. What's that first step? Is it sketching out like what you want it to actually do in the tool, or any thoughts around that very first step as our final sign off to folks?
I think my tip is just find that pain point. that thing that you have to do over and over and over, and you know there's got to be a better way to do it. If you can't find an extension to do it, start looking at some of those tutorials and seeing if there's a way you can make it do it.
Love it. Thanks, Wanda.
Yeah, exactly. If you have, if you just have that slightest little idea, and just recently, I think Sheets introduced those recordable macros, so you can get into kind of repeating tasks even easier now without even any code, just recording a simple little macro and playing that. So just finding those little, and I really like that term pain point. I'm sure I've heard that before, but it's definitely definitely the right term, but finding it and then trying to figure out how to solve it.
Wanda, you might need to host a pain festival, and we'll all sign up for your pain festival. Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Huge thanks to Wanda, Jordan, James, Devlin, and Chris. We're so excited to have you share your inspiration and your real-world tips, and also what's coming new with the platform itself to make this all possible. And we'll be sure to give feedback. Hopefully you guys can try some of those things that James and Devlin mentioned to give feedback to the Chrome team to continue building a really super product that's helpful for teachers. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you online.